Today we are going to take a look at 4 different Victor Wembanyama rookie cards from the 2023 Prizm set. We've got the base, we've got a blue, yellow, green. We're going to be doing a green Prizm here. Let's get up here first. We've got a hyper Prizm as well. So these are all the same number 136, just different cards within that set. We'll be discussing my offer sheet, which includes average bid, seller take home on average, as well as my offers that I would be putting out there. And we'll talk about what I would sticker these cards at as well if I had them in my own collection, was thinking about selling them. So let's get into it. Let's start off with the base card, just so we can get the lay of the land here really quick. As you can see on the right hand side, we have our 15 comps. These are all taken off of eBay recent sales, and they are going to make up the vast majority of the numbers that we see today. So a low of $74.99 for this card, a high of $90. That is a very tight swing at 20%. Normally you don't see this tight of a graph for a base set card. You normally see people hunting those perfect cards, and that usually causes some peaks and valleys, but not with this card, which is interesting. Down below, we have, on the top right-hand side, we have our PSA submissions. 3,160 have been submitted. 2,002 have come back perfect. That's a 63% rate of return. All of these cards, again, will be in a raw format, so I want you to understand that if you're going to use any of these numbers that we talk about here, only do so in person. That's when I use these numbers. Obviously, it's a lot easier to buy online when you're dealing with perfect PSA 10s because there's less variability. But if you're hunting a perfect card, it's always best to do so in person. That's my recommendation. The blue number that we see here is $83.05. That's the average bid price paid in order to win one of these cards at auction. 323 is average shipping for an out-the-door price of $86.28. Sellers, however, have a fee to pay, so that must come right off the top, and it's generally between 13 and 15%. So sellers are actually taking home $71.75. This is what I consider to be fair market value, and this is also the number that I believe if you are buying a card in person and they pull out recent comps, this is the number that I believe they should be starting at, okay? I want them to start here. They'll probably pull out the blue number and say, well, the average of these past 15 or whatever came to $83.05. Make sure you let them know that eBay charges fees, and really they're talking about a $71 fair market value instead. That's the best way to, I think, negotiate this card. We do also have our stoplight system. Green, yellow, red. These are all percentage rates of the blue number here. Again, sellers like to talk about the blue number, so we're going to base our percentages off those blue numbers and sort of tick down a little bit lower. So 70% is the green, 75% is the yellow, 80% is the red. Those are my go, slow, stop numbers, I like to call them. So first offer is $58, second offer is $62. Normally my final offer is $66. I do also like to make sure when I have a chance to make sure I'm getting in the bottom third of sales if I'm buying. So I sort this column ascending and I drop down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $69.10 gets me into the bottom third. So if I get that number or below, I'm in the bottom third. It still is higher than my 80%. So that tells me I'm personally stopping at 80% still. 66 is what I'm willing to spend on this card. If I wanted to sell in the top third, I would go to the bottom of this list here and jump up 5. That would be $73.44. That would net me about, a cool $8 or so, $7 or $8 in order to make a bit of a profit. That's an $85 buy it now that you'll see over here. So if you want to sell, I'm personally happy to sell online on eBay if I can get my percentage. I'm okay with that. I just don't like to buy, especially raw cards on eBay. Okay, so that's where we sit at for the base set card. 83 is average bid, fair market value 71, first offer 58, and my final offer will be at 66. Okay, so next up we have the blue, yellow, green, and this one has a lot of red flags for me, and this is why I like to graph everything out. As you can see, we have a general trend in the downward direction for this card. In fact, it doesn't seem like we've hit the bottom yet, which means I'm staying away from this card. Unless I get an outstanding deal, I'm not getting anywhere near it. We've got an $800 low, a high of $1,148, a swing of 43%. And generally, that number would normally make me intrigued because I like to get in that 50 to 100% swing. And that usually means I can make a few moves and potentially make some money off the card, right? But we haven't hit the bottom of this market yet, and I'm getting nowhere near it. I'd rather pay a few more dollars than the bottom of the market, truthfully, just to know that it's the bottom of the market. Down below, we've got another big red flag for me. We'll talk about that in a second, but PSA submissions at 5, PSA 10 is 3 of them. That's a 60% rate, but that's a very small market, or sample size, I should say, so I'm staying away from that as well. Now, the final red flag that we'll see here, we've got $9.82 as your average bid, $24.73 is your average shipping, which means a lot of these comps are coming from China. So I personally think that those cards coming from China skew the market a little bit, and I'll be honest, I'm nervous about those cards. So I kind of stay away from a card that is generally that high of shipping because it means there's some overseas markets at play, and I would rather go local in order to make that happen if I were buying a card. So seller take home is going to be $852 on average. First offer $688, second offer $737, final offer $786. Again, I'm not getting anywhere near this card, so that really doesn't matter. Let's though see where this sort ascending does and dropping down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 763 gets me into the bottom third of sales. And normally, if there wasn't a downward trend happening, I would be happy to now use that as my final offer, generally. So instead of hitting this 80%, 763 would be my max offer. But on this card, I'm not getting anywhere near it for those various reasons that I told you. Also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 986 would generally be what I would ask for it, which is a $1,095 buy it now. That is if I went for it. But not my favorite card right now, and it's a shame because it's a cool looking card. But this market right now for this card, very wonky, and I'm getting nowhere near it. Playing with fire, you get burned, and I don't want to do it. Next up, we have the green Prizm, and this one is a little more to my liking. And you might be seeing this graph and saying, why? It's crazy, right? Again, our swing is 99%, which means there's some opportunity. So this is a prime example of why I only like to use these numbers in person. As you can see, we've got consistently high numbers and consistently low numbers. That means that people are trying to find perfect tens, and they've deemed these high cards to be of better quality. They're willing to pay more, obviously hoping to get that PSA 10 in order to make a few extra bucks themselves, right? So, but within this chaos means I have an opportunity to make a few dollars by finding a perfect card in person and then potentially selling it, whether in person or online. So down below, as you can see, we've got many more submissions for this card, 419 to be exact. 224 have come back at 10. That's a 53% rate. Again, a better than coin flip chance to get that PSA 10. So 261 is your average bid. 575 is more to my liking as far as the average shipping is concerned. That means we're not seeing a lot of overseas shipping, and that out the door is 267. Seller take home is going to be 226. First offer, 183. Second offer, 196. Final offer, 209. Let's see if that final offer stands or if we have to adjust. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A prime example of a massive adjustment as far as what I would be offering. And we do see this because we did see that graph having those pretty consistent lows and pretty consistent highs and not much in between. So we're trying to get in that bottom third. So 181 falls actually significantly lower than this green price. So that means I adjust my final offer. That means I'm actually going to final offer at 183 on this card, which I think you can do it. It might take some work in person, but I think it can be done. Of course, if I see a particularly beautiful, perfect card, I might be willing to go up a little bit more, but not much more. So 183 is what I would want to spend on this card, And if it was a nice card, I'd be asking for $259, netting my, what, $70 or so at a $300 buy it now. And this card of the 3 so far that we've seen really has me intrigued. It's probably what I'm targeting based upon those 3. Next up, we've got the Hyper Prizm, which offers another opportunity for us. Definitely more action on this card. I like this graph a lot more than the blue, yellow, green, that's for sure. We do have some outliers with some overseas shipping. See these $30 here, multiple of those. So take that into consideration as well. A lot of these $6.99s are also typically overseas, so keep that in mind too. Down below, we have 54 submissions, 25 have come back at 10, 46% rate, lower than the green Prizm and the base, but definitely way more submissions than the green, yellow, blue, or the blue, yellow, green, I think it's supposed to be called. 386.97 is going to be your average bid to win, which is significantly lower, interestingly enough, than the regular silver. So this card looks silver. It just has a bit of a different design for the silver. So keep that in mind as well. I think it can, in my opinion, in person draw a little more intrigue because it does look similar to the silver. And that silver is going for a lot more right now. 335 is going to be your seller take home. We have 270s first offer, 290 second, 309 is final until we check the bottom third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 16, 34 gets into the bottom third. So that 80% still stands strong as my final offer for this card. And I'd be asking or stickering 372.73. Now, this number here, I want to also point out one thing. If I'm stickering a card, I am not afraid to put $372.73. I'm not, all right? Because I personally believe, and I feel, that that number tells somebody who's coming to buy it that I put my research into this card. And this is the number that I want. It's not just, oh, well, I'll just call it $380 or I'll just call it $400. Those are just quick math numbers. Obviously, you're probably going to be negotiating down from this point, but I do like to give that impression. Well, not necessarily impression. I do like to tell them and show them that I've done my research, and that is what this is all about. Okay? So we've done our research. $430 is going to be your buy it now option on this card as well. Okay, so that is it for these cards. I am probably most interested in the green Prizm, then the Hyper Prizm. The base card is nice, but it's so consistent, it's going to be hard to make any money off of it unless you get perfect cards. This is a good option for hunting PSA 10s if you wanted to, and I'm staying away from the green or the blue, yellow, green. No way am I touching that. All right, that's it. Take care, my friends.